Welcome to Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game. Hi everyone, I'm your host Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and money gamer extraordinaire. Today we're talking about the bucket list of retirement with nationally recognized retirement expert Curtis Cloak. Well, welcome to the show, Curtis.
Thank you, Steve.
Well, I'm thinking about, as I head to retirement, it's not too many years out now, I'm thinking about not only retiring, but hey, what's my bucket list during retirement? But before I talk about my personal bucket list of lifestyle and the things I want to do, we got to talk about our bucket list. Where's our money in? What bucket is it in? I love your concept here of these three classes of money, and I like the way you've really made it easy to understand. Let's walk it through. You've been doing this for years. You have huge amounts of, you have a huge client population with unbelievable amounts of assets under management, almost a bill. So let's talk about your three buckets. And I noticed that you did it by a tax, kind of like a tax issue here.
Yes. Well, understand that we have really three classes of money out there. And so let's just talk about the red bucket here, the pre-tax dollars. So understand that these are dollars that are coming into your bucket that could be pre-taxed IRA. And we're talking about deductible contributions here. 401k, 403b, 457, anything that you get a deduction when it goes in. You get tax deferral if you do it right on the way to the growth level, and then when you turn that spigot on, when you start to take something out of there, every single thing coming out of there is 100% tax.
Even my original amount of basis?
Correct, because you got a deduction when you put it in. You've paid no taxes on the deposit. You've paid no taxes on the growth, and you've paid no taxes now
so
until
whatever
you
I'm
distribute.
taking out of any of these monies that I've had a tax deduction, I'm going to have to pay taxes on it at what? Ordinary income tax?
Ordinary income tax,
okay.
Absolutely. So the second bucket of money is the after-tax bucket of money. And we have two after taxes, but let me explain the difference. This blue one now. Money goes in, and this could be mutual funds and stocks and bonds and annuities. Now, it gets a little confusing here. There are really four spigots on this thing. It could be long-term capital gains. Okay, that has a different taxing effect. It could be short-term capital gains, which is really treated like ordinary income tax. So the effect of those two taxes, though they're called something different, are really one and the same. Well, one I don't really list here is qualified dividends, different category. But again, the last one I want to talk about is exclusion ratio tax treatment. Now, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but understand I've got last in, first out rules. So
last in, so if I earn whatever I earned is last, that's coming out first?
Yep, so if I put money in and then I get my gains on top of that, and when I turn income on as a spigot of income,
gains
first, and
taxable event.
Taxable event. When I have a tax exclusion ratio, put money in, money grows tax deferred. When I turn on the spigot of income, then I get to blend prorationally my gains and my basis. And so if I'm turned on an income that's defined, I'll just make that one very, very simple. So I put in X and it doubled. I put in 50 grand, it's worth 2,000. Now 50 grand is worth 100,000, and I need 2,000 a month, and it lasts X period of time. Well, that means that I might have a 50-50 tax, right? 50% is a return of basis, 50% is a return of gain.
So my original contribution is coming out tax-free.
Tax-free. That means that I get to spread out those gains over a very long period of time, and I can actually coordinate that to actually manage my tax bracket and bracket bump the bracket that that I don't want to cascade over.
What you just said, bracket bumping.
So understand it. You have about $21,000 as a couple. If you're over 65, it's a little bit more, where you can have X amount of $20,000+ of taxable income, and virtually with your standard deduction and your exemptions, pay no tax at all. And then of the next, I think it's the next 17.5 or 18.5. I kind of get the 13 rules and the 14 rules here mixed up from memory. But 10% tax above the standard deduction exemption amount. And then when I get to the 15 bracket, I've got another $50,000, $60,000 worth in that bracket for which I can pay. And then
so we have a progressive
sliding scale. And only that amount that cascades over the waterfall, if you will, to the next bracket is taxed at the higher level. And so by using some of these strategies and paying attention to this, I can get the high income cash flows but keep my taxability down inside a certain bracket. So that's the after-tax in. And these, some of them are going to be tax deferred as they grow up and then taxed when they come out. Some are going to be taxed as they're distributed. And so there's all different ways for which I could be taxed in that bucket. Okay? And then there's the after-tax money that goes in. And if I do it right, tax deferred growth, because I don't know if I'm going to play by the rules right, but if I do play by the rules right, and what are they? Roth IRA, which we advocate a lot, and certain cash value life insurance policies. When I take money out of them and I play by their rules when properly structured and executed, so good advisor could tell you how to do that, good insurance agent, everything that comes out of there, even though I didn't take a deduction when it went in, should be tax-free when I distribute it out of there. And see, the more of these buckets that I can blend my assets gives me much more tax control when I learn how to split those assets.
So does it matter when I take these out then?
Sure it does. The order of distribution, the order of the classes, and I have a lot more control to manage that up front if I can control the bracket, if I take money out of my pre-tax bucket early, because guess what happens when I hit the 70.5? My limitations are taken away. I'm now being dictated based on my asset value and my age, how much I have to take from that.
Because the government requires minimum distribution from these qualified plans.
So if I can manage taxes to stay in a very, very low bracket and create a capacity, I might be able to move money from this bucket before 70.5 into the Roth, or I might be able to move money into the blue bucket. And so if I have time before 70.5 after I retire, or even while I'm working, depending on my income flow, I can actually work really hard on managing taxes and actually trying to find a way to mitigate monies to each one of these categories.
If we do it right, we're going to be saving on taxes, which means we'll have more money to spend in retirement. We'll be right back after this short break. It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. And keeping more of your money is even harder these days with high taxes, fund expenses, and fees for financial advice. And when you consider the uncertainty of the market and the rising cost of living, the purchasing power of your dollar is constantly at risk. But a tax-deferred annuity with an inflation rider can be the most cost-effective way to generate increasing annual income without market volatility. For more information on how annuities may work for you, just email me at steve@thenameofthegame.tv and ask for our free annuity information. Well, we're back with Curtis Cloak, retirement expert and guru of all that is de-accumulation. We're going to be taking distributions. We talked about our 3 bucket lists and some of the ways that we can play to actually put more money in our hands. But when I think about the bucket list, I also say, okay, I want more money because I actually have things I want to do. So when I talk about buckets, you have a strange way of approaching this whole thing of, well, now I'm in retirement. Every day is a Sunday.
Yeah.
Right? Now what?
Well, we talked about in a prior show, we talked about, climbing a mountain and accumulating money, the front 9, and now the back 9 is the deaccumulation phase. Well, when I do all of that, when I finally get to retire, I want this rewarding journey, a fulfilling journey, and it might not just be this movie I've played in my mind where I'm sitting on the front porch in a solid life of leisure. In fact, I'm pretty sure if we've worked really hard and we've looked forward to this day for a long time, there's a honeymoon period where that's probably true. But I'll have to tell you, I can't tell you actually how many retired clients I've worked with. And a seed of depression were to kick in about 6 months in because they've lost an identity or they didn't they didn't have a plan for what they were going to do to feel fulfilled in their retirement. And after a while, it gets really hollow when all it is a life of leisure focused on themselves.
Now, are you saying, though, that most Americans, they look forward to retirement, but they don't have a plan on what they're going to do in retirement?
Absolutely.
Is that pervasive?
It is pervasive, and it's something that there's financial aspects of retirement and then there are emotional aspects of retirement. And what I'm finding is if we don't marry them up as we help educate our clients to prepare for retirement and get into retirement, we say that this should not just be to retire, but I think it, for fulfillment purposes, is a time to refire. So refire for the things that we want to do. It's a change of engagement. It doesn't mean that maybe we're not doing anything. What is it? Is it kids and grandkids? Is it the library or the church? Is it some mission project, in the U.S. or abroad? What kind of fingerprint, what kind of footprint do you want to leave? What kind of memory would you like to have as a lasting impression of your own life? When
you introduce this to a client, Curtis, is it a lot of times, is this their first time thinking about this?
Yes.
See, that amazes me. So really, part of your practice, you think it's all about math and logic and using all these modelings to produce a great retirement plan. But bottom line, sometimes this is somewhat pastoral. You got to really dig this out of their soul and say, hey, this is what you're facing. You could not just retire. You could, as you say, refire.
There was an article about a physician not too long ago I read in the Dallas newspaper. I believe it was a Dallas newspaper as I was traveling, that basically killed himself. And they found this guy dead with the gun still in his hand. And there was a note next to him. He said, This day I was a doctor, and this day nobody knows me. And so people lose their identity, and they lose their purpose. And so we say, look, it may be a change of engagement where I've bought my floor, or I've bought my income max, or my lifestyle finish line of income, and now I'm going to work for things that get me out of bed in the morning that have more meaning, and I have more passion about it than when I was actually working for pay. Because I built my pay, I built my income floor, I'm going to work on things that really matter. And I think people need a reason to still get up in the morning every day and still engage in life and feel fulfilled, feel a deep purpose. And I call this an attitude of abundance over an attitude of scarcity. What do I mean by that? Sometimes people play that movie in their mind about what retirement's going to look like, and then when we do the calculations, sometimes we don't tell them what they want to hear. I have to tell them what they need to hear. And sometimes they still want to retire, but they now know mathematically that the movie they've been playing at the level they've been playing, it can't happen. But I need them to reboot their thinking. I need them to start over, act like the movie they've been playing didn't exist, and they replay it. If I can help them accept it emotionally, what can financially and economically and reasonably and responsibly happen, I get them into a place of abundance. It's not about dollar bills in the bank. If I don't, and I let them think that they might be able to do what maybe they can't or shouldn't project doing, they're always going to live in a place of scarcity. And I want to talk about what Viktor Frankl said. He said it so well. Ever more people today have the means to live, but no meaning to live for. And I think retirement is what that's all about. Last thing people want to do when building a significance is they don't necessarily want to worry about the market. I'm not saying they don't have assets in the market, but certainly not the assets generating income are going to be subject to market. And there was a study done by the Society of Actuaries that said those that have an asset base, that an income stream for which they can't destroy or outlive, they just live longer. We call this, Steve, refirement, not retirement.
So you're saying they actually have actuarial proof that people who have security, financial security, actually live 2.5 years more.
Absolutely.
So that I've never seen that equation brought into actuarial science.
Well, I use a metaphoric idea. Let's say I give you $50 to go to dinner, and anything you don't spend, you get to keep. There's 2 restaurants you can go to. One is a buffet line. So you go back 2 or 3 times to brag everybody about how much you got for the money. The second one is an a la carte of a nice restaurant. You're going to order just enough to get full, but no more than you need to save whatever money you don't need to spend, right? Well, same's true here. If I can't run out, I'm just going to live emotionally. I'm wired as a human being, and I want to get the most out of what I have coming. And people just live longer. It's hard to say how or it's hard to say why, but people just seem to do. And so they die of old age or they die of other reasons, but rarely it's a stress that I'm going to die because of lack of income or cash flow.
So these are the areas that we are looking at, and we're actually addressing those as advisors. Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. I want to thank Curtis for being our special guest and today's money mentor. And before moving forward with any of the ideas on the show, always consult your tax advisor or legal counsel. And as the good Reverend John Wesley once said, make all you can, save all you can, give all you can. I'm Steve Savant. See you next week.